This is Water Elemental.
And this is Axis, and we are here today to talk about the League of Legends. It's a little show we do. We talk about what's going on with Riot Games and their brainchild that we all seem to very much enjoy. Got some interesting stuff this week. Hecarim came out. Hecarim came out. We're all excited about that. We got a new patch. We got some new sales. We got a big tournament that's about to end, I think.
And we have some interesting stuff involving Riot trademarking another website.
Ooh.
So we'll talk about that after the newest champion, Hecarim, Centaur Glavy Man.
He is a strong jungler, a strong laner, very strong ganker, very strong tanky DPS. He's a solid character all around so far from what I've seen.
We've already talked about his abilities a bit, so we're going to jump right into what we think of him, kind of how he plays, and our impressions of him.
So far from what I've seen, he's great at getting into the middle of team fights, especially with being able to ignore unit collision, and then just starting to spam and throw down and gain life, and just position people appropriately so he can just reap destruction on them.
My perspective is coming from playing against him and playing with him. I do not do very well, and I'm not really a melee champion, so I see how they affect team fights outside of actually playing them. And going against them, especially when they're jungling, they have a relatively fast movement speed from start, so they can pop up, especially with the Ghost. They can engage very nicely. Thing is, though, if you know they're coming, well, with most junglers, you know they're going to come. But the anticipation time, as soon as you catch them coming, since they're so fast, you're able to respond less to them, which is kind of an advantage. But at the same time, if you're expecting them to come gank solo top, which I play a lot, you see a Hecarim coming up from behind, say you're playing on top, and they kind of start wrapping around behind your tower, you're able to adjust, and so they aren't able to touch you as much because they don't have creeps or anything with them, and it's kind of a weird system with him. And I found that his ganks early game can be devastating, but at the same time, really easy to counter.
Yeah, from what I've seen, he does very little damage after his initial burst. I mean, the assault swings are
Nice.
a little bit annoying, but overall, it's that initial charge with the knockback. And then when he starts swinging, I'm really not that petrified of him. His damage is reasonably low from what I've seen. Could just be bad builds, but who knows. He just seems like he's a very strong burst. So he basically rushes into your lane, positions you, and then most of the damage is going to be put on the lane people, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's still very solid for ganking. But from what I've seen, his damage early game is reasonably low. He seems very item dependent.
He is very item dependent, and especially since his passive has him scaling attack damage off movement speed, which kind of narrows down a lot of builds that you can do. You're going to have to get fawns, you're going to have to get, blades, you're going to have to get, certain boots and stuff like that to maximize his passive, which in some ways is really cool because he's going to be moving really quickly around the map, but at the same time, your builds are limited if you want to maximize that potential of the passive. But at the same time, if you don't really want to, boost up movement speed and be really fast, you can go really tanky and just have a really good charge and control when you enter a team fight, especially with his ultimate.
Indeed, that ult is amazing.
This new fear on that ult is great. This is what fear should be.
Yeah, no, fear should be a direct runaway, which I don't know.
I've seen it to points where if you're at that point at the top tower where there's the bush where the wraiths are, we had a team fight waiting there, and this enemy Hecarim ran in. The fear ran our support through that top bush into a Talon who was waiting because he knew that one of them would run up there. And it was really interesting because he was able to take advantage of the fact that they would run away from him, and he purposely branched off one of the people and picked her off. It was a really great play, and I think that's a really nice way of using that ultimate's fear.
Oh yeah, no, there's definitely, because it's a very controlled thing, you can really take advantage of it rather than just sort of the random fear you get with your fiddlesticks, your shakos, etc.
My thing is, do you think they're going to add that to the other fears, or do you think it's going to be Hecarim only?
I think it'd be neat. It'd make fear a lot more reliable, but I doubt it.
That means that they have to go back and change things and rebalance.
And it would kind of limit To be honest, Fiddlesticks' fear, it's more you want them to come towards you.
Yeah, that is true.
So having him move away might knock him out of drain range and be bad news. But who knows?
He's really easy to counter, as I found out. As playing tank up top, if he's not able to get the ganks from you, and if he's not able to farm against you, and if you get something like anything that deals damage within proximity, like a Thorn Mail or even just having a Sunfire Cape, can hurt this guy tremendously because he needs to stay on top of you. And constantly having that damage ticking on him really is a disadvantage towards him. And I think that if you have to counter him, that's probably one of the best ways to do it that I've found so far.
Slows are his ruin, too. I was playing Lulu, and just constantly dropping that 80% slow on him just crippled anything he could do.
Attack damage, no!
And his attack damage, he just couldn't position himself. Because most of his stuff, it's not just a dash, but it's just they add physical move speed to him, and he just goes where he needs to go. If you cut his movement speed by 80%, he stops. He's done. It's hilarious.
He has a really big hitbox.
Really?
I've noticed he's a bigger model. He's about the same size as Cho'Gath, but like a little wider.
Mm-hmm.
So I can, when chasing him, I've noticed I can hit him from farther away than most other smaller champions, which might be kind of a small disadvantage. I don't know if that's just me, maybe because I was hitting him with a slower attack speed thing, but I just kind of noticed that he's a bigger champion, so he has a bigger hitbox.
For sure. I mean, the hitboxes sometimes are hard to figure out, but he is definitely a very large creature.
He looks scary in game, though.
Mm-hmm.
Do you own him?
I do not. I've been playing a lot of Sejuani lately, and I really, really like her, so I'm going to try and get a handle on her before I pick up Hecarim.
Jolly Green, I've been watching Jolly Green play a lot. He's a very good jungler. He says that he needs, when he's playing, I know this might just be the way he builds and stuff like that, but he's noticed that no matter what he builds for, he's always going to need a leash on wolves. But after he gets the leash on wolves, he's able to handle himself and kind of scale up. But he just said that his starting scaling damage and his health and stuff is really low, and he needs better scaling. Which we say all the time, that they need to increase scaling on newer champions.
Well, if his scaling's all right, because it sounds like once he gets going, he's fine. It sounds like just his initial values are a little low.
Yeah.
So overall, what do you give this fine gentleman?
Creative, once again, a very great looking champion, very cool mechanics. Little lackluster out of the gate. Hopefully they can just rebalance him a bit, because this is kind of a first attempt at a champion that relies mainly on move speed. So I'm going to give him about an 8.
Yeah, I like him. I think his fear mechanic is cool. The ignoring unit collision in the passive is very, very strong. The sort of aura of dread, where it converts all of his damage into a certain amount of, spell vamp / lifesteal, or all damage he gets a refund on. That's very neat, and it awards really good timing and gameplay. So I think there's a really high skill ceiling for him. I do think he needs more sustained damage, because as I said, his initial burst is very high, but afterwards it's kind of falls off. But overall, I'm comfortable giving him an 8 as well. It's very strong, unique concept. I like the look on him, and he introduces some new and cool mechanics.
And he quotes My Little Pony. Luckily enough, I'm not that much of a hater of My Little Pony to rank him down because he quotes My Little Pony, but oh well.
He quotes My Little Pony?
Yes.
7! Knock him down to a 7.
Really? Because that means I have to change everything later on in editing.
Alright, 7.5.
Final answer.
7.5.
Okay.
My Little Pony.
Friendship is magic!
Shut up! We got a new patch that dropped this week. Introduced a lot of interesting UI changes. One of the big thing everyone's probably noticed is the new damage text. We've got really colorful and exciting damage text. It covers the type of damage being dealt, when it was done. A lot of interesting stuff like that. We got a couple of buffs, mostly minor stuff really, nothing crazy out of the gate.
Kale got a buff, and they kind of upsized her utility with the heals and stuff like that, but also kind of increasing the time it takes for you to get the abilities off a bit more, making her a little bit more playable, which I'm happy for. I actually need to probably get back in the game.
You played Kale way back in the day.
I played her way back when, and just ever since then, I just couldn't play her ever since they did that huge remake.
Mm-hmm. What do you think of the floating combat text, though?
The floating combat text is really nice. I like to see what type of damage I'm dealing to people, kind of scale if I'm not doing enough. That's really handy. It looks good. The new UI text that's popping up, like when you get a rampage and stuff like that.
The bold, the capital
bold.
letters.
It's a little good.
It's a little too much. It's a little obtrusive, really.
I do think that I understand where it's coming from here, because this is a spectator game. They want people to kind of get the feeling.
Mega damage.
It's like playing Dota without them keep yelling "Holy!" all the time at me.
Oh yes.
But I like it. I do like it. Maybe they need to just kind of change it up a bit, make it a little bit more transparent. So, because sometimes, triple kill, the guy's hiding right under the text, running away. It's like, where'd he go? Where'd he go?
No. The big thing I did, though, was they allow you to have the legacy damage values, so you can go back to the old damage values. I think they should offer that for the new, announcements, because I don't like the big obtrusive letters. I get that it's, oh, I did this, but I liked the sort of subtle and not as obtrusive ones. So I think, in addition to having that legacy damage text that you can turn on, you should be able to turn on legacy announcements as well.
Yeah, I do like the fact that you can see how much health per 5 you're getting and how much MP 5 you're getting on the side.
Oh yes, and the attack speed timer and the level timer are awesome. I really like that.
I was sitting there and I didn't realize what that on the side of the number on the left side, the curling up EXP bar.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't notice that for the longest time. I'm like, what is that yellow thing on the side? And then I leveled up. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool.
The other big thing was that attack timer, especially for champions like Hecarim.
That's really big.
Where you can sort of time when you can attack and when you should be running. It's really helpful for chasing.
Well, that's really good for champions like Trundle, too, where if you time it right, you can get that extra...
Yeah, that sort of double attack.
Timer, yeah. So that's really good.
It's a really nice UI improvement, and I like that they give you some legacy options if you don't necessarily like the new. Moving away from the patch, we have a couple of sales this week. Skins first.
Yeah, skins first.
We, of course, have the two Hecarim skins. Both very nice looking, though I'm more keen on the Reaper skin. Definitely looks epic.
The Reaper skin looks really nice, too. But the other one that they came out with, I think that was with the single bundle.
The Blood Knight?
The Blood Knight one still looks really... I really like the change to his head.
The weapon looks great, but scythes, man. I love Grim Reaper Karthus, and so this one sort of takes my heart.
I wonder if he was the last member of Pentakill. What would he do? Clop his feet in time with the band?
Yeah, but no, he'd have a jug that he'd blow.
That jug.
Oh god. And then of course we have a new Shen skin. I thought this was a legendary at first. This is an amazing looking skin.
Detailed, very nice looking.
It's got a lot of cool stuff. New attack animations. He's got a little banner that actually flows with the direction you're going. Looks exquisite. If you're any kind of Shen player, this is the skin. The Lee Sin? I'm sorry. The skin.
The Lee Sin skin for you, but
and you can pair it up with Samurai Master Yi, and you can have a whole group going. This would be great times.
Yeah.
We got a couple of sales this week. What do we have for skin sales?
We have Jurassic Cho'Gath.
A very nice looking skin, looks very good. A lot of these Cho'Gath skins were kind of bland before, but with the Loch Ness or the undersea Chogi, and then this one, the Jurassic, looks very good. And they also did a Jurassic skin for Kog'Maw, so I imagine there's going to be more Jurassic skins. You can start building up a group of these. It'll be very cool.
If it's Void Champions, Jurassic Cassidon.
Oh goodness,
that would actually be kind of cool.
That's Chaos Theory.
Chaos Theory. Next up, we have Longhorn Alistair.
Not my favorite skin. The outfit's kind of cute. Most of the Alistair skins have to do with like different color skin and crazy eyes. This one's just sort of as a regular skin with a hat and an outfit. So it sort of fits the whole bull theme of the Western era.
This was about the same time we started doing the show.
Really?
And I remember coming out, and we actually had a joke about they should just give Alistair a skin where they just put a hat on him, and this is exactly what came up a week later.
Amazing.
So. Finally, we have Imamu.
Not my favorite skin for a Mamu, but I mean it's a joke. It's a very obvious joke, and if you want that very obvious joke, this is the one you should go for. Not my favorite skin, but it's nice for the crowd.
Before we get into the champion sales this week, I want to bring up that there are 2 new price reductions for Malzahar and Kennen. Both really good champions, both great AP.
Mm-hmm. Being knocked down from 6,300 to 4,800. A very solid price reduction, and it adds a little bit of accessibility to the AP group, which is important because there are a lot of 6,300 APs.
There's a lot of 6,300 APs, and the ones that are lower are really basic ones, so you can't really go from a basic champion to a medium skill cap champion without paying at least 6,300.
Indeed.
But moving on to our champion sales, we have Garen, Vayne, and Sona.
Well, I can't ooze over Garen too much. I mean, everyone knows this guy. He's like the title character for League of Legends. Really fun guy, spins to win, Demacian Justice. One of my favorite characters by far. He's got a lot of awesome skins. He's got really good abilities. His scaling is not great. He's not a really good late game champion, but his early game is to die for. Really fun champion if you're looking to have a blast, control some games, or even have a great time with your friends. Great champion to pick up. Vayne is one of the best DPS right now, the ranged DPS that is. Very good true damage, lots of mobility, great chaser. She's got a really good ultimate. When we first review her, she is kind of boring. She's sort of that basic AD. But if you're just looking for that with true damage to kill some tanky DPS, great champion.
Basic isn't always bad, guys. When we say it's basic, we judge a lot on creativity as well as mechanics. But just because we say that she's boring doesn't mean she's bad. She's still a great champion, probably still in the top tiers. So check her out. Finally, we have Sona, probably one of my top 3 favorite.
That was one of my top 15 supports.
She's one of my mains. I love Sona. Got her when she came out. She's very fast. She's very, very ability intensive. You're constantly casting spells, helping fights out, giving everybody movement speed, magic and armor resist, and increased damage. She has a great AoE stun. She's just all around a good champion to have. She's very mobile. She is a little squishy, but that's just the downside of having a very AP intensive, very aggressively helping person.
Isn't she really good early game with her damage too?
She is. That's one thing. They did move her around, so she is more aggressive. And that's one of the problems that they keep kind of tweaking her around on that sense. That's just kind of something you got to watch out for.
Indeed.
But she's still really great. Pick her up. And a few other kind of behind-the-scenes things. First up, Soraka is probably going to get a new art update. Something small. I think that's really good. Kind of make her not look really trashy in her splash art. I never really liked her splash art.
Yeah, no, they've been doing reworks lately with GP or Kale. So they're probably going to revise her, make her look a little bit better, give her a new model, so we'll see.
And finally, this isn't confirmed, this is all speculation, but several sources have talked about a new League of Legends domain name being registered, League of Legends Supremacy.
Ooh.
And people are speculating that just kind of like Dominion, where we got the first hints of Dominion through the domain name, that this might be a new map or a new game mode. And would be really great to see some sort of arena-based system where kind of like Warcraft 3's custom hero arena.
Well, yeah, no, I would love, not even like an arena-type setting, but like an RPG setting, where you're not fighting enemies, but you're fighting like NPC characters, and you're going on a voyage with the same characters, same abilities, same items, but you're on like an adventure, and you gotta
kind of like there would be the League of Legends PvP.net game where you'd have all that stuff, but your account would also unlock the champions with the same skills and stuff in the single-player dungeon crawler format. Kind of
well,
like
it would
that.
be single player. You'd have your friends with you.
Well, I mean like single.
Yeah, but
PvE.
a dungeon crawler. Yeah,
Yeah, player versus environment.
That'd be interesting.
That'd be really cool. I would love to see something like that. Give us more backstory into these characters.
Yeah, because lore is the one thing we lack right now.
I really hope that they can find some more people for lore. I really do. Hopefully they're figuring everything out.
Indeed.
But I miss Journal. I really do miss the Journal of Justice.
And that's really it for official news this week. We're going to be moving on to our own section. Our first question comes from Pilgor13. He says, what do you guys think of the current metagame? Like sustained fighter top, AP mid, support and AD carry bot, and then they snowball into late game. Well, to be honest, we've all gone through a lot of metagames from AD mid, AP top.
Every team needs a Mordekaiser.
Yes, there's tons of metagames, but this one's kind of nice. There's a spot for every champion type on every team. The one thing I don't like is there's just an extreme prevalence of tanky DPS. That's sort of been an issue in a lot of them. Before we had the AoE meta and the instant everything dies meta, which, to be honest, the instant everything dies meta was kind of interesting because you really had to play tactical and choose your initiation. Right now, you just sort of run at things, take advantage, and then just put your tanks in the way and just win every team fight.
Tank, go in there, please. I don't want to die.
It's kind of boring because you're either one team's just winning, or no one's fighting. That's how every game seems to be going these days. It's just one team either just instantly wins, or you just never fight till the very end, and it's really bland and really boring.
There isn't no middle ground where people are aggressive and misplays win games. Essentially, like one team doesn't do something right, or they slip up and push too hard, and then something goes on. At this point, it's kind of like two people with water guns. They're just kind of
So I think I definitely think there's room for change, and I wish there was change, because I'd like to play in maybe a more AP centric meta right now, or maybe a more range centric. But right now it's all about the tanky DPS and just out tanking the enemy team, which is really bland.
It's not bland for me, being a tank.
Yay! But yeah, thank you for the question. And what do you guys think of the meta? Would you guys change it? Would you do something else? Is there a meta in the past that maybe you preferred? Let us know.
I preferred every team needs a Mordekaiser.
Oh yeah?
I did.
Mordekaiser es numero uno. Our next question comes from Banik. He says, anyways, with your question about who is the best champ in the moment, I'd like to ask another one. Who do you think are the most underpowered champions in each area? Well, obviously, in terms of assassin, I'd say Evelyn's probably the worst right now. Okay damage, but just very, very weak ability to just take someone on head-to-head. I mean, her stealth is the easiest to counter in the game, and when you combine that with the fact that she no longer has her stun, it's just a very unreliable slow, and an ult that depends on getting kills in order to be effective. It's a very difficult cocktail to deal with.
For mages, I think right now one of the weakest mages is... I'm trying to think, there's so many mages out there. I want to say Swain's still a little underpowered compared to other mages. He's very sustained damage, and unless he's really built up, he's just going to be ticking away slowly, and he's not going to be able to get as much kills as you'd say a more burst mage.
A combo mage is very, very tricky. You've got a lot of combo mages out there, but he's one of the very few whose combo kind of takes a long time to build up.
It's a very wind-up one, but when it hits and he's able to do well with it, he can hit, but he really doesn't have an early game, which is very, 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 very bad.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very, very.
So you have to be very tricky with him, and with how skittish people are, it's very difficult to combo effectively.
Especially against a Swain, because people constantly don't want to get too far, because the closer they get, the bird's going to deal more damage, so he could just poke with the bird and be like...
Indeed. As far as bruisers go, I'm not sure there's an underpowered bruiser.
Every one of them is good. Next topic.
As far as supports go, definitely the weakest one right now is Karma. I mean, she's very strong. Don't get me wrong. Her late game healing capacity is massive, but she's really limited by mantra charges, and just by the fact that
technically she only has 3 skills, but that's part of her mechanic. She has more time to build up these skills, but there's only 3 of them, so you're going to have to be hitting 2 buttons to do a heal instead of Tarek just go click heal.
She because of the combo intensity of her and the fact that a lot of her support is weak until she puts a mantra charge on it, and sometimes she can't even support at all without a mantra charge.
Her heal's a mantra charge, her shield gets more damage absorption when it is boosted up.
So it makes her very difficult in terms of sustain. She's better. She's a lot better for fights that go very quick, and those are very uncommon these days.
Don't get me wrong, she's a great champion, but most people are playing her more as an AP burst than she's a support at this point.
Indeed. Ranged AD, the worst one really is Corki, which seems strange. Corki's he's got a lot of cool stuff going on, but with new champions like Caitlyn and Graves, his previous niche of having, you know, sort of really strong damage that could just sort of come out of nowhere, his damage is sort of outclassed by people like Graves, where they're just like, yeah, I have more damage than you, it's physical, it scales off my physical.
And it's consistent.
So, Corki sort of gets outclassed. That true damage on his passive is awesome, but all things considered, he needs more.
He definitely needs to be looked at a bit more. Don't get me wrong, if they're going to remake him, keep his ultimate. I love his ultimate. It's just they need to make him a bit more consistent.
Indeed.
And that's really it for questions this week, guys. If you guys have a question for us, send us an email at spazticgaming@gmail.com. We'll be guaranteed read and probably on the show. We also have the comment section. If you guys got a smaller question or something, ask us in the comments down below. We also have our forums you can ask us at. Check it out at spazticgaming.com, where we also are still working on our archive section, so if there's a champion you want to see what we thought about, we're slowly building them back up. It's just a really tedious process, so we're working on that slowly. We are making the video. We're going to announce it later today. The contest. We're going to announce our thing right there. We're going to get the prizes out and everything out today.
Yay!
It's just we've been extremely busy and we've been delayed several times due to YouTube problems. So keep a lookout for that. We'll be talking about our 2 winners and a couple of our runners-up, so find out who won. And personal thank you goes out to one of the people on the forums, Irish Black Sheep. Got me a free Dota 2 pass. I appreciate that. Been having a blast with that. I suck at it.
Yeah, no, you've been having a blast, alright.
Blast going 0-17 and 1 being told to uninstall. Woohoo!
Oh, God.
And anything else?
This has been Axis.
And Water Elemental. I suck at Dota.
Yes, you do.
An ally has been slain. Dominating.